Hey there and welcome back to Mutant Year Zero. My name is Pete and today we complete episode 12 of our Iron Mutant playthrough, an episode that is likely going to be a bit different than the others, because I think it's safe to say that our goal of taking no damage in this playthrough is very much in jeopardy today, but we'll get to that in due time. Now, last time we left off, after finishing our entirely optional adventure at the Lair of the Horned Devil, we defeated Chief Grey One, blew up their robot and collected a good amount of artifact points. And so today our first stop will be Prip's place, before we then pay a visit to the Elder, because also in the last episode we collected the 5th hidden magazine, and the achievement description actually mentioned that these were the Elder's specialist publications, and you may have also noticed that every single one of these magazines was of a particularly adult nature, so I'm very much looking forward to see what he has to say about them. But again, first of all, let's visit Prip.
Well, look what the Zone Wolf dragged in. Good to see you.
Alright, and with 4 artifact points to spend, we will now unlock 3 of the remaining 4 upgrades, starting with Technophobe, giving us an extra 10% crit chance against robots. Up next then we have Mule, which gives every character an extra grenade slot, and believe it or not, today that is an upgrade that will very much come in handy. Finally then we have Tough Guy to extend bleed out time by 2 turns, but this one is mainly for completionist purposes. Ideally, we do not even get hit in the first place.
Have a swell time out there.
And so it is now time to visit the Elder and see what he has to say.
What is this, my stalkers? You have found images of a disturbing nature? Let me take a look. Yes. Let me, take these for safekeeping. The ancients kept records of their day-to-day lives, and acts like this were often depicted in chronicles like these. At the end of civilization, many tried to save these precious times by hiding them deep in the forests around the world. Thank you. I will make sure these are studied most thoroughly. The Ark thanks you for your service. Be well.
Alright, a very elaborate way of saying let me keep my smut, but of course, who are we to judge? So instead, let us now meet our squad for today, which consists of the original 3, Dux, Borman and Selma. And we'll start off with Selma, equipped with needle pistol, boomstick and snazzy visor for extra range, as well as with the commando vest, which will give her extra grenade throwing range. As you can see, she also already has a smoke and a frag grenade equipped, and with slot number 3 unlocked, we are going to add to that with another frag grenade. In terms of mutations, we want to keep the first 2 here, Froglegs and Twitch Shot. However, with 32 ability points to spend, we can unlock another one for number 3. As a matter of fact, we are going to unlock all the remaining ones here, as we still haven't gotten Joker, an ability that Borman also has. We can also still grab Contortionist to make low cover count as full cover, and this is the one that we actually want, we also still have Alpinist left to grab, which will give Selma a 50% crit chance bonus whenever she has the high ground. And like I said, we have enough points to grab all 3. And actually, we have enough points to grab a few stat upgrades as well. In alternating order, these will always increase either her health or her grenade throwing range, and so combined with her armor, Selma will very quickly be able to chuck grenades halfway across any given battlefield. Now, before we move on, let's actually make sure that we equip Alpinist, and then we can continue with Borman. He is currently sporting the crossbow and the Elysium, as well as the Grenadier's Delight hat, which will increase his grenade damage output by 2 points. Now, in order to use that, he should probably also have a grenade that actually does some damage, so let's fill his 3rd slot here with a frag grenade, just like Selma. Ability-wise, by the way, we are going with Hog Rush, Run and Gun and Eagle Eye, but before we get going, we can also fully complete his mutation tree, as we only have 2 abilities left to unlock. The first one is Spore Cloud, which will emit smoke whenever Borman is damaged, so it is basically a personal smoke grenade that triggers every time he's hit. The other mutation is Corpse Eater, and we already know that from Pharaoh. We hopefully won't ever have to use it, but by unlocking it, his skill set is now completed as well. And once again, we do actually have a few points left over to grab some stat upgrades, and with Bormin, these are all of the health increase variety, so let's make our tank even tankier. And finally then we have Dux, who we can also give a quick health booster to. His mutations have thankfully all already been unlocked. Regarding his loadout, we are going with the Ancient Pistol and the GJR, as well as with the Aristo Head for extra high ground crit chance. Dux's mutations of choice for this one will be Mothwing, Circuit Breaker and Silent Assassin, and just like his companions, he does have one more open grenade slot, so let's put a hand grenade in there. And that finally completes the lengthy but very much necessary preparation for today's episode. Trust me when I say this, things might be starting off a little slower today, but very soon things are about to get very difficult. Now that brings us to today's destination, which is the Castle of Light. That is our next logical stop in our journey towards Eden, and so let us once again embark on another adventure.
Restore a glimmer of hope to a world of chaos. Join me and help bring light back to the zone. Come to me. Come to Lux.
Did you hear that voice? That was weird. Keep your guard up.
Take a chill pill, all right? If the voice wants to bring light to the zone, I'm all for it.
Whoever it is, he doesn't sound hostile. Maybe we find him and see what he wants.
And you may have already been able to see him standing far off in the distance, and it certainly looks like whoever he is not immediately hostile, which I would consider a welcome change to how missions usually go. So let's take our time to collect the few bits and pieces of loot around the map, before we then engage in a conversation with Lux.
Welcome to the Castle of Light. Forgive me for not providing the illumination this castle is known for. I pray that someday we will once again become a beacon of light for weary travelers.
Nice to meet you. We heard your voice out there. Are you Lux?
Lux I am. You say you heard my voice in the zone? Quite interesting. Perhaps the fates brought you here. You look strong, well-armed. You get things done, yes?
Hells yes. We're stalkers. We take everything the zone throws at us and then some.
Then I humbly request your assistance. There is a pack of renegade ghouls who wish to keep the zone in darkness. They stole the key to the sacred sanctum, where the lights get their power. Perhaps you can help me recover this key from the ghouls. It's a special key. You wouldn't miss it. Return it to me, and I'll reward you handsomely.
I like handsome rewards. We'll deal with the ghouls and get your keys.
Okay, looks like we have met a friendly individual out here in the zone. He certainly looks a bit like some of the ghouls that we have fought before, but for a change he does not seem to harbor any ill will towards us. And there is one more thing that is interesting, and that is that Lux does not seem to be alone, as we can spot several ghouls behind the fence here, who are also marked in blue on our compass. For the moment though, the area that they are in is locked, which is only one more good reason to bring that key back.
Hey, that Lux guy seemed pretty cool, right?
I know what you mean. He's pretty zen for a lonely old man living in the zone alone. Weird.
Lux's lights are a beacon of hope for the zone. Let's turn them back on. We're gonna have to convince those ghouls to give us back the key.
Now, our stalker friends seem to be entirely charmed by Lux, and don't worry, we are in fact going to complete his quest, but that quest will bring us to another entirely optional area, and before we go there, let us quickly unlock the next destination on the road to Eden first. Again, this is just for fast traveling purposes, as we want to go here in the next episode. For now, we will only take a note of the area being named Grave of the Ancients, and then we turn around and head back the way we came. Coincidentally, at this point we have also more or less cleared the Castle of Light of any loot that is currently available to us. Again, there is another sizable area of the map that we do not have access to at the moment, but grabbing Lux's key will hopefully change that. And to get that key, we now have to travel to the Unenlightened, an area that is for a change relatively small, but of course, going in we already know that there will be enemies. Before we engage those, however, let's quickly grab some weapon parts, and then we slowly approach the action.
Sideways trees. Creepy. Can we find Lux's key and get out of here?
The look on Lux's face when we robbed him blind! I love being a ghoul! The look on his face when we stole his key. Now his slaves are trapped in the power room, and he can't make his pretty lights go on. Dumbass! We should go back there, see if he hires us again, then steal more! His powers would fry our brains. You saw his slaves. Nothing in their heads. So shut up and relax.
Okay, so as we quickly take out the butcher here, we have just heard that Lux is apparently keeping some slaves, and that his key is actually for the room that he's keeping them in.
What do you think about that, huh?
Now, as you can imagine, this slightly changes our impression of Lux. However, at least for the moment, it does not really change our objective.
Hey guys, come here.
And that is to clear this map of ghouls. Victim number 2 is also fast approaching, a hunter with 24 hit points.
That had to hurt.
Actually, a little less than the hunters that we faced at the lair of the Horned Devil.
Not today, dickwad.
And as a result, easy to take out as long as Dux hits a critical hit to start us off.
Oh man, that was my shot.
As the enemy falls, we can then also collect some loot and open another chest.
Let's get this open.
Inside we have a gladiator helm protecting against critical hits, and we already have a different one that does exactly the same, so our need for this one is comparatively small.
I got this. Cover me.
Still, it will of course go straight into our inventory as we now prepare to take on the main ghoul group in the area, which consists of 3 enemies, a tank and 2 hunters. And to prepare our ambush, we will bring both Dux and Selma up here onto the high ground, from where they will have excellent shooting positions. Bormin, meanwhile, will stay on the ground and slowly but steadily loop around. On his way to his eventual spot, he can also collect a few more valuables. And once his pockets are full, he will sneak up on the hunter that looks a bit separated from the other 2. And he will go into cover in a very particular spot at the front of the tractor here. And as soon as he's there, we will begin the fight. Now, the reason why Bormin had to go exactly here is that he can now hog rush the hunter without having to dash, and that means he still has an action left to use afterwards. That action is then where his grenadier helmet will come into play, as he can now throw a hand grenade at the tank and the other hunter. Thanks to his armor, the tank only takes 7 points of damage from that, but that is enough to kill them if Selma can land her twitch shot with the boomstick, and if she can get critical hits on both shots, which, thanks to Alpinist, she can as well.
We've lost one!
Right.
You got it.
For Dux, a 15-point critical hit is also guaranteed with the GJR, and unfortunately the hunter only has 14 hit points left.
Sorry about that.
The other hunter, meanwhile, is still stunned from hog rush, so we are in no hurry here. The first shot for Bormin connects, and we can now actually skip the turns for Dux and Selma. That should actually get us to kill a bit faster than moving them.
And stay down!
And there we are. All the ghouls have been taken out and the area is cleared, at least that is what it looks like. In just a second, however, we will find out that that is not actually the case.
That's a fancy key. Could be useful.
Now, before we grab the key, let us collect this weapon modification here. This is another one of those that gives us a 2-point damage increase on critical hits, not to mention a 50% chance to stun robots on every hit, which should hopefully slightly cut down our use of circuit breaker and EMP grenades.
This feels wrong. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Why are we helping Lux again? I don't want to rag on anybody, but he's a bit of a dick, isn't he? Who cares about his frickin' key?
This feels like the night the Psy Lords ambushed me on the high road. They got in my head. I think Lux is getting in our heads.
Now, while our squad is debating whether or not Lux could potentially be mind-controlling them, we have stumbled upon another Z600 robot, well hidden over here in the northwestern corner of the map, but certainly not well enough for us. Since it is isolated, however, it does not actually present too much of a threat to us. A quick circuit breaker takes it out of action for the next 2 turns, and that will be more than enough time for us to dispatch of it. Just to be on the safe side though, we will not actually try to kill it on the first turn. I think it would be best if we first got Dux a bit further away from the eventual explosion.
That all you got?
But once he is safe, Selma can go for the killing blow. And there we are, now the area is actually properly cleared. Still, we should take a moment here to prepare. I don't think I have to tell you that there could be another fight coming up. And to prepare for it, we want to give Bormin the Borg Band for a bit of extra movement range. And of course, we also want to fill that 3rd grenade slot back up. Additionally, ability-wise, we will switch from Hog Rush to Stone Skin, while Run and Gun and Eagle Eye remain active. With Dux, we also have to make a few mutation changes, the first one being getting rid of Moth Wings in favor of Chameleon, so that Dux can now go invisible. Also, very importantly, for Circuit Breaker we want to bring in Knee Shot, and Silent Assassin gets switched out for Alpinist. Dux's loadout meanwhile remains the same, which brings us to Selma, who will first of all take the Elysium from Bormin. That weapon has a bit more range, and that is needed because she will now also equip the Grenadier's Delight from Bormin, making her absolutely lethal with grenades. In terms of mutations, Froglegs, Twitch Shot and Alpinist will remain as they are. Let us also not forget at this point to give the Boomstick back to Bormin. And finally, we can make Selma an even better Grenadier by unlocking her the next rank of Thrower and further improving the throwing range of her grenades. And that would be all, and now it is time to collect all of the loot that remains on this map. It is not necessarily much, but considering what was previously blocking this area, some of it might indeed be very valuable.
Bingo! Now for the fun stuff.
Unfortunately though, this chest here only holds another Explorer helm. Not only do we already have one of those, but it also comes with the exact same features as the Gladiator helmet that we just picked up, and considering that we are trying not to take damage in the first place in this playthrough, its usefulness to us is probably severely limited. Still, let us not complain. After all, we went here primarily to get a key, and now that we have that key, as well as all of the other loot, the only thing left to do is to head back to the Castle of Light.
Bring the key back to me, my intrepid warriors, so we may once again shine light from this blessed cathedral of hope. Bring the key back. Bring the key back.
We got Lux's key. Should we give it to him or give it to Prep back home?
A promise is a promise, and we promise Lux. The Stalker's word is her bond.
How about we just take the key and unlock his sacred sanctum ourselves? Go in, take a little peek.
And indeed, that is what we're actually going to do. Of course, only after collecting a bit of loot that is now accessible after the area behind the fence has opened up. The key, meanwhile, could of course be brought back to Lux now, or it could be used on this door here to find out what lies beyond.
Who is that? More workers for the wheels? Hard to see. So hard to see.
Here, let me help you.
I can't stop now. I see the light of the ancients on the horizon. I'm almost there. Then I will be with the ancients in space for 1,000,000 lifetimes.
And after 1,000,000, where do you go? Listen, this guy's nuts. All these guys are nuts.
They're not nuts. They're hypnotized. He must be using his mind control to force these people to power his lights. Okay, fun time's over, people. You've been hypnotized. Wake the hell up and get out of here.
So that unlocks the first achievement of the episode, and we can also collect an artifact down here. An artifact, by the way, that would not have been available to us had we given the key back to Lux.
Oh man, would you look at these? I've never seen something so beautiful.
I have heard of these. They were used in ancient religious ceremonies related to mass consumerism.
What have you done? What have you done? The lights must have power. You will become my new slaves. Give your minds to me.
Right, so Lux is angry, and things are about to get very interesting now.
Get them, you worthless slave!
Yes, you are seeing that right. Every single ghoul on the map has just turned hostile, and we did not actually engage anyone. This combat is started automatically as soon as Lux finishes his speech. It is also the reason why we sought out the high ground as soon as possible, as we are now in a position where no one can actually attack us on their first turn, while we have a slight advantage. And I think it is safe to say that we need every edge that we can get, as we are currently under attack from Lux himself, 2 hunters, a pyro, a tank, a marauder and a butcher. But don't worry, we have a plan, and it begins with Selma and her frog legs ability. That allows her to jump all the way to the edge here without triggering reaction fire from the enemy's overwatch. And from here she will now take a shot at Lux, however only with her needle pistol. The reason for that is Lux's ability to shield himself from bullets, as you can see here. Luckily for us, however, he can only do that once, and then the ability goes on cooldown. So up next, let us activate Stone Skin on Bormin and move him up to draw reaction fire, otherwise Dux won't be able to move up without taking damage. Now Bormin takes the shot like a champ, and that means it is now Dux's turn, and with him we will use Knee Shot on Lux to keep our enemy right where he is, nice and exposed. Nicely enough, Knee Shot does not come with an aim penalty and also still allows us to land a critical hit here, a good basis to perhaps already eliminate Lux on the next turn.
Yeah, I did that. What do you think about that, huh?
Finally then, Bormin will use one of his smoke grenades, because everyone inside of the smoke cloud cannot be attacked, and that ensures that we will survive the enemy turn without taking damage. Our enemies will of course use this opportunity to get closer to us, and if they can, go on overwatch, but at the moment all of that is secondary to our main objective, and that is to eliminate Lux as quickly as possible. Now, if things go according to plan, we won't get to see it, but Lux can actually revive fallen units, use a chain lightning attack similar to Magnus's, and also mind control us, while the rest of the ghouls in the area can't actually do that much against us, at least not as long as we still have the high ground. And that high ground, as well as the fact that we are just at the edge of the smoke cloud, that now allows us to land another critical hit against Lux.
Yeah.
Very clearly, his shield has not recharged yet, and that means it is actually time to go for the kill now with Selma.
One of us is down!
And that is another achievement unlocked. Bormin meanwhile will go on Overwatch. Unfortunately, there are no viable targets for him to shoot at.
Overwatch.
And that decision pays off immediately, as the hunter here makes the foolish decision to move. And yes, over this distance, despite the high ground, the hit may not have been guaranteed, but a hit is a hit, and 11 points of damage certainly hurt a lot. Now, as you can also see, our smoke grenade actually lasts for a while, for 3 enemy turns to be precise, and that is also the main reason why our enemies may seem a little disorganized at the moment, as they are very much aware of the fact that we are here and an active threat to them, but with most of them being simple gun users, they can't really do much about that. And that brings us to the Pyro, who can of course still throw a Molotov right into the smoke, but, well, smoke grenades in this game also have the unique advantage of extinguishing any flames in their area, and so we do not take any damage here. And so it is now our turn again, on which we will take that pyro out, even though they evidently do not present too much of a threat. But we have to start thinning out the enemy numbers somewhere, and we are most certainly not going to leave this position anytime soon. To end our turn, we can now put Selma on Overwatch. She does have a bit more range than Bormin after all.
Yeah, go for the spare ribs, as good as dead!
And with the smoke grenade still active, our enemies still don't really have much of an option. The only enemies who could do something about that are the Butcher and the Tank with their melee attacks, but in order to use those, they would have to get up to us, and they are still a good distance away from that.
Call me.
You did good.
In case of the Butcher at least, they will also never get to that point, as another reaction shot finds its target and this time actually delivers a critical hit for the kill. And so let us focus on the Tank now with a grenade from Selma, of course to do some damage, but primarily also to remove the cover. And with the Tank exposed, that brings us back to Dux and his knee shot mutation, as this seems like an awfully convenient position for our enemy to be in, so let's make sure they stay here for a while longer. Since our smoke grenade has vanished, Bormin's turn is then a no-brainer. We are still not in the clear yet and definitely need the protection. And that once again brings us to our enemies, which we have now depleted down to 4, and who all once again have absolutely no idea what to do with their turn. The hunter on the ground at least could actually use the ladder to move up to us, but for some reason they don't, and even if they did, they couldn't shoot at us anyway.
Kill the woman! No sweat on it! Overwatch.
And so another enemy turn comes to an end with a few harmless overwatches, while we can continue our killing spree, this time with Dux taking out the Tank.
You did it, kid.
Now at this point we have unfortunately ran out of conveniently placed targets, so reloading and overwatching is clearly the most sensible idea for Bormin and Selma.
Overwatch.
Take the swine! Getcha! Overwatch.
It looks though as if our enemies have very similar ideas, at least until we get to the Marauder.
One of us is down!
You did good.
Once again, it is Selma landing a critical hit on the reaction shot for the kill, and with that we are down to only 2 hunters, one of which is already injured, but for the most part these 2 hunters have actually done a great job avoiding us. Let's see though if they can keep that up as we go for one more round of reloads and overwatches. Yes, we do have several options to actively engage them, but we also have one more turn of smoke cover, so we might as well use that.
Overwatch.
And again, one of our enemies moves, but this time the reaction shot misses, while the other hunter just stays exactly where they are. So, 2 enemies left, both of them on the ground. It looks like we might have to make a move here if we don't want to burn through all of our smoke grenades. It actually took me a moment to figure out how to best approach this, but in the end I decided to once again use frog legs with Selma, followed up by a twitch shot, which will take the hunter out nice and easy.
Feel that?
Ooh, nice.
Now, strictly speaking, this does leave Selma exposed, but she is so far away from the hunter that that is basically no concern, especially not since we are now using Stone Skin to actually move up with Bormin. However, not quite as far as we theoretically could, because ideally we want to lure the hunter just a little bit closer to us. With Dux, we are then using Chameleon to make him go invisible, and this will actually last until he attacks anyone. At the very least though, it also allows him to move up safely, because as it stands, we might need them both to kill the hunter. Speaking of the hunter, he does now actually come a bit closer, but doesn't shoot or go on Overwatch, which should make the rest of this fight relatively easy. Now, with a bit of luck, we could get the kill in one shot if Bormin lands a critical, but if he doesn't, we might have to follow things up with a grenade, since Dux can't move close enough to take a guaranteed shot himself, and since that grenade could actually get Bormin caught in the blast radius, let's not complicate things any further and simply throw it first. That also removes the hunter's cover, and Bormin can now go for the kill.
Bullseye!
Sweet. You wasted him.
Follow me. Lux seemed like a nice guy. Till he turned into a psycho.
He was powerful, but he was just one man. Now imagine a group of Luxes. That's the Nova Sect.
The odds are against us. But fuck it. Let's roll the dice and kick some ass.
And I believe it is safe to say that an ass-kicking was already handed out here. Full disclosure though, most of this fight is actually rather predictable if you start out in the same location, even though of course landing the all-important reaction shots is not always guaranteed.
Let's see if we got something useful.
Our precious loot from this area then is the Lucia armor protecting against electrical damage. That could be useful depending on what we face next. If Selma is to be believed at least, then the Nova Sect are harboring a few more gifted individuals like Lux, so at some point in the not so distant future this might come in handy. This chest, by the way, is also the reason why you should be very careful throwing grenades in this building, because most of the environment is actually fully destructible, and it is possible to destroy so much of the building that the chest can no longer be reached. We did manage to grab its contents, however, as well as the weapon parts over here, and that means the Castle of Light has been completely cleared, so let us return to the Ark. And while we're traveling, let me also quickly mention that if you want to avoid that big fight at the end there are actually 3 ways to do that. The first one is rather obvious, I think. Simply don't interact with anyone after grabbing the key and just head on straight for the Grave of the Ancients, although of course that means you'll miss out on a good amount of loot. Option number 2 would be to actually give the key to Lux, who will actually not stab you in the back, although that might be expected, and whose chest we can then loot before leaving again in peace. The only way to unlock the 2 achievements, however, is to actually use the key yourself and free the slaves, but even then you can avoid the big fight, although it requires a bit of an exploit. If you quickly launch an ambush attack against the first hunter you see after exiting the basement and do so before Lux stops talking, then the big attack from all the ghouls will actually never happen. Instead, you are free to move around the map and take out enemy after enemy, one by one, sneakily and stealthily, just like in all of our previous episodes. I am pretty much convinced, however, that this is not the way this mission was intended to be played, and actually having this big ambush attack happen makes it a nice change of pace, at least if you have tackled all previous missions the way that we have. So that is why we did things the way we did today, but of course, in the spirit of true completion, I wanted to share that information with you. And so, I think we have now reached a good point to make the cut and wrap up today's episode, and if you liked the way we did things today, then I would of course be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.